When Doug and Ashley Benefield met, they both had been married previously. Now, not a lot is known about Ashley's first marriage, but Doug had just lost his wife Renee 9 months before meeting Ashley. Then, their romance actually blossomed via text messages because Doug was traveling for work. And when they got back together, they quickly got married within 13 days of first meeting. 54-year-old Doug, an entrepreneur, was now married to 24-year-old Ashley, a former ballerina. Together, they started a ballet company in Charleston, South Carolina. But as they were launching this expensive venture, Ashley got pregnant and moved to Florida to be with her mother. From that point forward, the relationship became very strained. Ashley accused Doug of abusing her and stalking her, and Doug accused Ashley of preventing him from seeing his child. This battle was fought inside family court, and each time, Ashley lost. Then the judge ordered psychological evaluations of Ashley and Doug. The results of those evaluations were going to be revealed in court. But just a few days before that hearing, Ashley shot and killed Doug. She claims self-defense, but the prosecution says it was murder. Tonight, we are live from the courthouse in Manatee County, Florida, for day one of the Black Swan murder trial. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thanks for joining us here tonight on Closing Arguments. As we talk about this case, Doug and Ashley Benefield, it really begins with a very bizarre custody battle. A custody battle that really began before their child was even born. Before the child was born, the litigation began. It usually doesn't happen that way, but it did in this case. And the question is, well, they're in South Carolina, right, doing all of this. Why are they in Florida? Why is this all happening in the Sunshine State? Why did that happen? Well, we know Ashley went down there because her mother was living there. And the real question for this jury will be, well, why is Doug in Florida? Why is Doug there? Is he there because he wants to get back with Ashley and he's obsessed with her and he's following her wherever she goes and he's stalking her? Or is he in Florida because his wife, who may be his estranged wife at the time, is about to give birth to his daughter, and he wants to be a father to his daughter? That's for the jury to figure out, because you've got two competing narratives throughout the course of this case, throughout the course of this trial. And the questions for this jury really go to the two people who we're talking about, the defendant and the victim. And we begin with Doug Benefield. And the question is this guy an abuser, or is he just a guy who wants to be a father? Is he obsessed? Is he violent? Is he unpredictable? Does he fly off the handle? Is he dangerous? Or is he a guy who got married to a woman that he thought he was in love with and thought that loved him, and she's carrying a child and has a baby, and he wants to be a dad to his baby? Those are the two pictures. Those are the two choices. That's what the jury has to figure out here. That's what is really at issue. And then with the defendant herself, Ashley Benefield, well, is she a killer, like a cold-blooded killer, or is she a victim who is defending herself? A victim of his violence, a victim of his abuse. That's what this case is about. That's the way it's been set up. Joining us right now, live from Manatee County, Florida, Court TV, legal correspondent Kelly Craft. Kelly, great to see you. Yes, jury selection is technically the beginning of a case, but I think today, days like today, are really the first day. So let's talk about the scene at the courthouse, what's going on there, and then tell me about the opening statements.
Good evening to you, Vinny. Yeah, it really is basically the first big day, and the state had a busy day because not only, as you mentioned, opening statements took place, but the state went through so many witnesses today, and it was a little bit surprising because they went through them pretty quickly. They said that they actually are a little bit behind schedule in calling witnesses. But the scene inside the courtroom, so you have a lot of supporters for the victim in this case, Doug Benefield. So we've heard from his cousin. His daughter took the stand today as well. Two of his older brother and a younger brother has been here inside the courtroom. Some other supporters, including a longtime friend and other cousins. So a lot of supporters for Doug Benefield. On the other side, for Ashley Benefield, her mother has been here, but she's going to be called as a witness. So she has been sitting outside the courtroom. Also inside the courtroom, we've seen some people who have been at prior hearings in this case. For instance, the Stand Your Ground hearing. Some of those people have been inside the courtroom for this case so far. And also some people who stand against domestic violence. So interesting to see the different crowds inside the courtroom today here in Manatee County, Florida, in Bradenton. Why don't we go ahead and play a little bit of the opening statements. Obviously, two very different pictures here. The state painting a picture of a manipulative woman, and then defense counsel saying that this is just a case about self-defense.
This case is about a woman who very early on in her pregnancy decided she wanted to be a single mother. And she did not want the father of this child to have any visitation, her husband. And everything she did from that point on was to attain that goal. And she would stop at nothing to attain that goal. She tried several things in the system that you'll hear. The courts, law enforcement, Department of Children and Families, no one got on her side. And at the end, when there was no other option, she shoots him and kills him and claims self-defense.
Fearing for her life, she heads for her bedroom where she has a firearm. She gets to the firearm, she turns around, she orders Doug to stop. When she looks up, he's in the doorway. Instead of seeing the gun and leaving, Doug gets into this warrior pose with his arms moving purposely and advances. At that point, petrified, she fires, believing that if he gets a hold of her, she will be either seriously injured or killed.
And Vinnie, also in court today, the state played the redacted version of that 911 call when Ashley Benefield went over to her neighbor's house and told the neighbor what had happened, that she had shot and killed her husband. So bits of that played today inside the courtroom. And so that was interesting to kind of watch the jurors' reaction to that. And also they passed around a number of crime scene photos. Some jurors definitely looking at those a lot more closely than other jurors. Vinnie?
And we're going to break down that 911 call coming up in just a little bit. But let's talk about one of the first people I spoke to when I started covering this story, which is Doug's daughter. Not the little child who was outside of the courthouse the other day with the sign for her mommy, but her daughter, Eva Benefield, who testified today. How about her testimony?
Vinnie, so she was on the stand talking about the relationship that she would observe between Ashley and her father. And she talked about a moment when Doug came to her and said that he had met someone, that he was dating someone, and also wanted to talk a little bit more about it at one point. And she told her father that she actually didn't really feel the need to sit down with the both of them and want to talk with both of them until they came to the point where they were going to be getting engaged. And to her surprise, they had already been married, and that's what her dad ended up telling her. But she was asked on the stand on direct examination about what did she observe in regard to their relationship. Did she notice any discord? And then also on cross-examination, she was asked about a hole that was in the ceiling. Let's go ahead and listen to those.
How often would you say that Ashley and your father would disagree within your hearing?
Never.
Okay. You said if Ashley was trying to get her point across that she would go on and on about that?
Yes.
Okay, so you don't term that as a disagreement?
No.
Okay. And what would you term that as?
My dad just listened to her voice her concerns.
Okay. Did you ever hear your dad at any time yell at her?
No.
Did you ever hear your dad do something or say something that was controlling to her?
No.
Was that hole in the ceiling of your kitchen, can you describe it?
It was small.
Small, kind of round?
Yes.
Consistent with an object?
Let me finish the question.
Consistent with an object the size of a bullet?
Yes.
So, Vinnie, in a prior hearing for the Stand Your Ground hearing in which Ashley Benefield, was talking about these past allegations, these past incidents of her husband that she was alleging, talking about things like him pointing this gun into the ceiling and firing it, also punching a hole through the drywall in their home. And so Eva was asked loosely about some of these incidents because she, of course, on direct examination was talking about never noticing anything, no discord, but then on cross, defense counsel was able to get some of these incidents out there.
Yeah, trying to paint a picture that this was like a house of terror that Ashley Benefield was living in. We'll see if it's effective in front of the jury. Tommy Benefield also testified today, first witness called in this case, and he's Doug's cousin, been very outspoken and really one of the driving forces to try to get justice for his cousin. How about that moment inside the courtroom?
He had a lot to say about their relationship as well, Vinnie. And one of the things we've heard a lot about in this case so far is that both Doug Benefield as well as his wife Ashley Benefield both had a love for guns. And so this was a little bit of Tommy's testimony talking about where Ashley kept a gun. Let's listen.
Did Ashley ever discuss with you that she carried a gun?
Yes.
And what did she say about that?
She said that on their initial meeting, in the political meeting, that she and Doug's traveling partner in business, went outside of Secret Service people, and she showed him the gun she was carrying at that event in her bra.
And that was the night they met, and then about 13 days later, they ended up getting married. This is Ashley and her husband, Doug. So interesting to see and hear what's going to happen as things transpire in this case, Vinnie. And some late-breaking word today, we heard this earlier, that the state is planning to rest on Thursday. So this case is moving a lot more quickly than we had thought.
Oh, it's super fast. You could tell. I mean, witnesses on and off, important testimony, important witness after important witness, and we could be in a verdict watch on Friday. So Kelly Craft at the courthouse. We'll speak again tomorrow. Thank you so much. All right, I want to bring in a special guest joining us. You saw him on the witness stand. He's been speaking to us throughout our coverage of this story. Doug Benefield's cousin and family spokesperson Tommy Benefield is with us. Tommy, first witness on the stand today. Did you know that going in, and how do you think things went for you?
Hey, Vinny, thanks again for having me tonight and for letting us speak for our family and our side of the case. I knew I was going to be first up because of background, in particular because I had several weekends and several events with Doug and Ashley specifically, and that I ended up maintaining that open relationship, open communication with her long after they separated, giving her a chance to voice her concerns and allegations all the way up until my deposition in 2018. I believe we had a good day today in the prosecution side of the presentation. This is still the state presenting their information all day today and into tomorrow. It was very, very clear where Mr. Taylor was trying to go in his part of the case. But I don't think that the case is going quite the way he wants to. We have the single events that Doug admitted to a long time ago, but we don't have any events ever accused of him or found true of him once Ashley moved to Florida. So there's a big difference between what happened in the home in South Carolina and then all the 2-3 years that they were in Florida off and on together.
Now, there was a moment today, and as I'm watching this, the jury's out, you're out of the courthouse as well, and her attorney starts talking about you because there's some dispute about some testimony that they're trying to get you to talk about. So I don't know if you've seen or heard this, but I want to play it for you to get your reaction. Here again is Ashley Benefield's attorney talking about you.
As succinctly as I can, Your Honor, he's a creep. He acknowledged being a creep, and the jury will conclude he's a creep. It goes directly to his character and his bias. And that's why, after he said, yes, it was accurate, I recall it, he cannot bring himself to say it. And the reason he can't bring himself to say it is because he knows that all these women on the jury are going to know exactly what he was referring to.
Okay, so Tommy, I heard that, and folks watching heard that. I wanted to give you some time to respond because there's the rules of the court. You can't say everything you want to say on the witness stand. So give us your side, because this is all referencing text messages between you and Ashley, and in one of them, it's alleged that you said that, oh, Ashley, you married the wrong Benefield.
And that's not what the bubble says. It specifically said wrong Benefield. What I tried to do was give it the context appropriate to what Ashley has said in the text message prior to that. And of course, he's painting it the way he wants to. I've never in my life ever been accused of anything that he accused me of today. I was answering that what she was looking for in conduct, that there were different Benefields, and she was talking about the wrong Benefield, the wrong behavior. And I've never been accused of being a creep. Everyone in my company, ever in my business, everywhere I've ever been, no one's ever accused me the way he did today. Disgusting is my point of view. I was out of the room for it. My family and I talked about it this afternoon and this evening. But the accusation that they're making about that statement is completely out of context. And I certainly was going to try to give the question and answer I gave, as opposed to just that single bubble by itself, because that was not part of the way that treatment and that testimony should go.
And I got the feeling that there was a little more to it, and it's about context, but obviously we know what he's attempting to do and what's happening. So this trial's moving very quickly. Are you guys and your family and everyone else that's down there, you guys staying till the end here?
We'll be here all the way through. Vinnie, there's one very, very interesting thing that happened today that was outside of anything we had known previously. And certainly the testimony of the deputies and the folks who came on the scene at the Ashley and Alicia's home where Doug was killed. The fact that the gun turned out to be, we'll call it jammed for the sake of that. But we always wondered why Ashley did not shoot all the bullets out of the gun. We found out today that after 4 shots into the 5th shot, the gun jammed. That was new information today we had not ever had before. Very, very interesting that when the police picked up the gun from the neighbor next door and from Ashley, it was still jammed.
And before we go tonight, are there, for Eva, I know that she can't talk to you because she's still under subpoena, but your thoughts about her tonight being in the courtroom, being there with Ashley. She's now allowed to at least watch the rest of the trial from the gallery, but she can't talk about it, obviously. But your thoughts about her tonight?
Eva has been very courageous throughout this. She's very outspoken with her influencing on TikTok, and in particular about her recovering from the trauma of losing her father after losing her mother previously. I think she handled it very, very well today. And we were very happy that the state prosecutor invoked Marcy's law, which is the law where the next of kin can be in the room. So while she is a witness and she has not been released from that subpoena, she's in the courtroom getting to hear the testimony as Doug's next of kin. We were very, very thankful for that. She's been very courageous, and she's just telling the truth about what she saw.
All right, Tommy Benefield, Doug's cousin, family spokesperson, first witness in the trial. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Vinnie, for continuing to cover this fairly.
When we come back, we'll bring in our think tank. We'll talk about the 911 call, plus coming up next hour. A love triangle murder plot in paradise. Lindsay Shiver accused of conspiring with her Bahamian lover to murder her millionaire husband, Robert. What was going on in their relationship? We'll take a close look.
A former ballerina charged in the death of her husband.
Said that she attacked her and she shot him.
She's claiming that he is the aggressor in all of this.
I see a liar. I see a manipulator. She killed my dad.
Will the jury see her actions as self-defense?
Boy, did she have every reason to fear him.
Or murder.
The Black Swan murder trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
What did Ashley say when you opened the door?
As soon as I opened the door, before I could say anything, she said, he attacked me.
And is that all she said?
At that point, I said, who? And he said, Doug. He attacked me, and I shot him.
That's the neighbor who called 911 in this case, the one who lives next door to Ashley's mom. That's where Ashley was. Ashley runs over to him to talk about what just happened. And that's like the closest you really get to a statement about her perspective of what happened here, because she's never, ever given a statement to investigators. I want to take a listen to that 911 call because it's significant. I want you to listen not only to what John Sant, the neighbor, is saying, but listen in the background to Ashley Benefield, and then look at her in the courtroom as she listens to this 911 call, which is just moments after she shot and killed Doug. Let's watch.
Manager County 911, what is the address of your emergency?
Hi, my address is...
Okay, can you repeat that for me to make sure I have it correctly?
The house next door, honey, what's your address? Okay, it's right next door to me. She just came over. Her strange husband attacked her, and she says she shot him. Now, we've not gone over there yet. I've got to...
Okay, what's his name?
Who?
What is his name?
His name is Doug Benefield.
Okay.
I have not gone over there. I'm not going to go back.
I don't want you to go over there. Stay on the line just one moment. I'm going to connect you over to the sheriff's dispatch, okay?
Okay.
One moment.
Calm down, honey. Calm down. She's with me now, quite upset. The weapon is here.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go over and look at anything, or just wait for the police?
No, I want you to just wait for the police, okay?
All right, if you could just get them here quick. She came in, she was quite hysterical. I didn't know who was banging on my door. Said that he attacked her, and she shot him.
Okay. I'm just getting that all on the screen, okay?
Okay. I know, honey. Come on, calm down. I know. Go ahead, ma'am.
Where is the gun? Is it with her, or is it just...
I have it right here, ma'am. It's sitting on the floor inside the door. My door's locked, so in case he isn't, he can't get up. I'm also armed if he does come over and try to harm her, just so everybody knows.
Okay.
I'm kind of concerned with her mother and the little girl might get back there and find this whatever happened. Don't go out there, honey. Come on. I know. Come on, honey. Sit down. Sit down. I know.
Yeah. All right, I just want you guys to stay on the phone with me, okay?
No, I'm right here with you. I'm just with her. I'm trying to comfort her. We're in the house. The police have been warned, no problem. I know, baby. You gotta sit down. Come on. There's no... well, honey, they want you to stay here. If he isn't, we can't take a chance. That's why I want them before we get back in the park.
Deputies are moving as fast as their hand. They're coming priority. They're coming lights and sirens. They just want to get and make sure that everything's okay. I want to... So where in the house is he?
Where in the house is he? Her bedroom. No, I don't know where that is. Just be calm. You know they're going to take you into custody. You know that, right? Okay, just so you know. You just calm down and just calm. Okay. I know.
Okay. You just let me know when they come knock on your door, okay?
Are they coming now, the police?
They will. They're waiting for a little bit of additional units. They will.
Hey, is that your weapon or his? Okay. That's what I had. Let me get my... Okay, just calm down, huh?
Okay. Now, the deputies want her to go outside with her hands up, nothing in them. Okay?
You want her to go out?
Yes. They want her to come out with not...
Out of my house?
Yes.
Does he know she's in my house?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right, so we're going to have to go out, okay?
And they want you to stay inside.
Now, let's put your hands where you can see them, okay?
This is evidence from the prosecution. Does it help them or does this help the defense? Let's bring in our think tank. Joining me, trial attorney, fellow of the American College Trial Lawyers, Ann Bremner. Also with us, criminal defense attorney Renee Hill and criminal defense attorney Joseph Krowski Jr. joining us. Great to see everyone. Ann, I'll begin with you. What strikes you about her in the courtroom and what the jury is hearing at the same time? Who is this helping?
I think the defense, Vinnie, don't you? I mean, I was watching, and I watch her, and the jury's going to be watching her, of course. And her composure and comportment is excellent. She's kind of reliving it. She's stoic, she's reflective, and she's scared. And then the whole time we can hear her on the tape just crying and so upset, and then basically being comforted by this neighbor. I don't know if I would have played it as the prosecutor, but and there's some ways it helps them. Of course, she is the perpetrator; she's identified, etc. But geez, on balance, I think it helps the defense.
Renee Hill, if you're the defense in this case, are you smiling ear to ear, listening to this and seeing the reaction of your client, or not?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely enjoying this part of the tape on her behalf, for her defense, because as Ann said, it shows how upset she was at the time of the incident. This is almost like an excited utterance for her. So without her having to testify to it later on, they can hear how she appeared exactly after the incident occurred. And then sitting there in court watching her, she is reliving that moment. She appears to be back in the moment, and it is extremely upsetting for her. And you can see it there. So I think that this particular piece of evidence is very helpful for the defense.
Joseph Krowski Jr., I'm listening to this. I always look at everything through the filter of a prosecutor, and I'm like, I don't know if she has to take the stand now all of a sudden. Right. The neighbor is telling her story for her while she cries in the background.
Okay, so I know the show's not as much fun when we all agree, but it looks like we all agree. If you look at that 911 caller, he's really the first juror, isn't he? He's the first person that had a chance to look at her, to assess her, and by the tone and tenor of his 911 call, he certainly believed that she was in imminent fear of death or serious bodily injury. And you could tell he almost took on a nurturing role to her. She's either a terrific actress or she sincerely believed her life was in danger when she pulled that trigger. So, with all due respect to Tommy Benefield, I think this was actually a really good moment for the defense. Whether or not she has to testify, we're still dealing with a self-defense case with no other precipient witnesses where someone used deadly force in the absence of them showing real significant injury. I understand the pieces are there, and I'm not saying that this is dispositive one way or another, but certainly it's a piece that might be in the calculus of whether or not she testifies. But I don't think she's there yet. I think she still needs more.
And Bremner, I've never quite seen this situation with a 911 call, because in many of the cases that we cover in spousal murder cases, it's the defendant who's making the 911 call. So they're kind of talking. She's never, she would not talk to the 911 operator. She's never given a statement to police. She didn't testify at her stand your ground immunization hearing. And now I'm here and I'm like, well, maybe this is why. Maybe she doesn't have to. Maybe her, crying in the courtroom, her crying in the background of the 911 call as her neighbor basically lays out the basic parts of her defense. I mean, it's not very complicated. He attacked me and I shot him.
Brilliant observation, Vinnie. I mean, that's exactly right. It's the beginning, middle, and end of her case right now. I mean, they can just rest and argue reasonable doubt. Everything they need right now, I think, is in evidence, and to take the risk of taking the stand, with all the other issues in this case and inconsistencies in the way she treated her husband, and, a lot of the other evidence against her may not come in on cross-examination if she's not taking the stand. So far, I think it's perfect for her.
Well, let's see. When we come back, we're going to talk about the defense and what actually happened in that bedroom. Well, Ashley Benefield may never tell the jury, but you know who did today? Her lawyer.
This is the most vulnerable time for a domestic violence victim. When the abuser recognizes that he's about to lose her. So what's his response to this? All right, classic tactics of an abuser. They are threats and intimidation.
About to lose her? They've been in family court for 2 years. They haven't been living together. I don't quite understand that, but this is the defense story. Now, I want you to take a look at where all this took place. It took place in the bedroom. Some of the crime scene photos were shown in court today, so you can see the area and how small it is. That's a big part of the argument from the defense, that they're in close quarters, and it's a very dangerous moment for Ashley Benefield. So we've been talking about whether or not she's going to testify and tell this jury exactly what happened. Well, if she does, she'll be the second person to do so, because today her attorney talked about what happened in that room.
Fearing for her life, she heads for her bedroom where she has a firearm. She gets to the firearm, she turns around, she orders Doug to stop. When she looks up, he's in the doorway. Instead of seeing the gun and leaving, Doug gets into this warrior pose with his arms moving purposely and advances. At that point, petrified, she fires, believing that if he gets a hold of her, she will be either seriously injured or killed. To her horror, after firing, he continues to advance. She absolutely panics. She tries to get away and backs to the side to create more distance between them, but there is no place left for her to go in this small bedroom. At that point, in utter panic, she keeps firing the gun. She sees Doug's legs go up in the air, almost as if he was running and slipped, and he falls backwards. Instinctively, she flees the house and heads next door to John Sant's house.
Let's bring back in our think tank Ann Bremner, Renee Hill, and Joseph Petrowski Jr. Renee, she's armed, he's not. Is this warrior pose? Is that a deadly pose? She's coming at him with the warrior pose.
Vinnie, you know what? This is very dangerous for defense counsel to make an opening statement like this. He's being extremely detailed, and what we know is that the defense attorney's arguments, what he says, is not evidence. So now he's putting forth this theory and this story and this line of events that if his client does not now testify to these events, he's going to have a problem, because he's almost promising the jury that this is what they're going to hear. And although they have the 911 call, they're not going to hear all of what he just said from anyone but her. So I think it's really dangerous that he's doing that. It's more like a closing argument that he's giving them, that he should have saved for closing arguments, as opposed to giving this to them in an opening without seeing how it's going to play out in the courtroom. Unless he absolutely intends to put her on the stand, which is something that most times we as defense counsel don't decide until the prosecution has rested.
All right, Joseph, which direction you want to go here? Do you want to talk about the warrior pose? Like, can you shoot someone who's getting into this pose, someone who's trained in self-defense?
Well, let's get back to what we talked about in the last segment, whether or not she needs to testify. This was either really clever because he got out what he wanted to get out, and he knows that he still doesn't have to call her, or it was really ill-advised, and he promised a lot too much. I would tend to err on the latter, that it was ill-advised. He got way too heavily into details, including the pose and some of that different information. So I think it was a mistake because, again, he doesn't have to call her. She does not have to testify. They can't consider that against her. But her attorney just promised a lot of information to this jury that they are now, I would believe, expect to hear.
Yeah, I would expect to hear it because he told she's the only one who could testify about it. There's no video. There's no eyewitness. Ann Bremner, I want you to take a listen now to Doug's daughter, not the little child who's at the courthouse holding signs, free my mommy, but his now adult daughter, Eva, who testified today as well, talking about her father, Doug, and his training and how what he can do with his hands and what he's taught her. Let's take a listen.
Okay.
Did you know that your father studied close quarters defense in the Navy?
Yes.
And tell us what close quarters defense comprises.
I'll allow it briefly so she can explain the basis of her knowledge.
Well, let me give the court a little better insight into this. Ms. Benefield, do you hold a black belt?
Yes.
And are you trained in defensive combat fighting?
Taekwondo.
Did you and your father often discuss different styles of defensive fighting?
We had the conversations when I was practicing, when I was 10.
And tell us were you trained in close quarters defense?
Yes.
All right. Tell us what it entails.
In hand-to-hand combat.
Okay. And it's the type of hand-to-hand combat where if confronted by a weapon, rather than turning and run, you're trained as to how to remove the weapon from the other person's hands.
Well, you're told to first ask for no conflict, and then if they proceed, yes.
Yeah. In other words, your objective is to take the weapon away.
If there's a weapon involved, yes.
Okay, Ann Bremner, what are your thoughts here? Does this now rise to the level that, yeah, you can use a gun on someone who's unarmed because he has this close quarters defense training?
Absolutely not. The defense did score some points with that testimony, but the lawyer in the opening statement lost me as a juror with the warrior stance, whatever. I don't really know what that is. I mean, it seemed almost too dramatic and TV drama-like. No, I mean, you can't kill somebody with a gun. It's only using their hands, period, end of story. And so that's going to be a difficult defense.
Renee, do you agree with the balance of the level of force that was used in this case?
I tend to agree with that, Vinnie. You know, when you have someone here that, I mean, they can make the argument that his hands perhaps are lethal weapons, and she knew what he was capable of, and that added to her fear, and that's why, you know, she felt that she needed to use a firearm to save herself. I mean, that's the only argument that they're going to be able to make, and that's why he's cross-examining this daughter in the way that he is. That's what he's trying to get out of her, but again, it's not going to be enough without Ashley Benefield testifying.
All right, Joseph Krasky Jr., I'll give you the final word. We have about 30 seconds here. Is this justifiable if everything the defense is saying is true?
Well, remember from his opening, he hinted that he's going to put on a battered woman's defense, and I know in pretrial motions that was allowed, and you have to look at the defendant subjectively. What might not be reasonable and imminent fear for an ordinary person would be for someone that's been battered. I think that what's really compelling is the fact that Benefield, on a prior occasion, pulled out a loaded firearm, shot it into the ceiling during an argument. I also had heard a little piece of information that Benefield had, with a closed fist, punched and knocked out a dog. So I think those types of information, coupled with the battered woman's expert
might be enough.
That I think that they need, might be enough.
We're out of time. Ann Bremner, Renee Hill, Joseph Krasky Jr., great job. We'll see you again soon.